Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Gracious good morning to you, good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do, and you know why I do it. It is Thursday morning, December 5th, and it is 2:39 in the a.m. I've been here for a minute, and I've been in thought, and I had a thought hit me as I was walking from my car to my office, which I tend to have happen most mornings. Wasn't paying attention to the radio, none of that. This morning, you know, I want to pay homage. I was sitting here and wandering around the office getting my accoutrement, if you will, getting my stuff together, bottom line. How about that? Got my turmeric tea. I took my insulin. Yeah, I'm good to go. So here's the thought that hit me as I was walking. Yeah, the people who influence me. Yeah, homage, if you will. Yeah, and I'm going to start first and foremost with my maternal grandparents. And, as kids, we gave them very unique nicknames. My grandmother was Bookie. Don't know how that came about. I think when we were very small, we couldn't say her name, Dorothy. So she was known as Bookie to us, and she always answered and responded to Bookie. Dorothy Matilda. And then a classic old school name. And then there was my grandfather. And I told you in earlier recordings, my grandfather was a steel mill legend. If anybody who is over, I want to say, now it got to be like 120. And I want to say most people aren't that old, but the name resonates. Harry. And my grandfather tells the story of how, because there were so many kids at home, he left home at the age of 12, to find his way. Now, he had older brothers. There were 9 kids in the family altogether. And I want to say that, the roots of sharecroppers, I don't know if that was great-grandma's story, but I've seen pictures of great-grandma, and I met my great-grandfather. I was like 4. He was in his early 90s, I'm sorry. And I met my grandfather, but by that time, our great-grandfather, by that time he was senile. But yes, the maternal side of the family was strong. My grandfather, I say he was a steel mill legend because he was illiterate. But he went on to memorize a lot of things and became a foreman at the steel mill. And he had a younger brother, Tom, who just adored him, and his sister, Pauline. They stuck together tight. So, I know those folks as well. Now, had another brother, Henry. Uncle Henry came to visit, but I guess I was in my sleep era, and so I missed out on meeting Uncle Henry. I've heard stories about Uncle Buck. Yes, I did have an Uncle Buck. Well, great Uncle Buck. But getting back to my grandfather, the way he became a foreman was that every night he would come home and study something, and he had memorized just about every badge number and put face to badge number for people who worked at the steel mill, in his section of the steel mill. He's a hard worker, heavy lifter, deacon of the church, Freemason. My grandmother, who was a high school graduate, had older sisters who were teachers. That side of the family proudly served in the military. There were nurses, teachers in one-room schoolrooms or schoolhouses. Highly educated folk from that side of the family. So that is my foundational piece. Now, my spiritual training, it started at, I want to say, Mount Olive Baptist Church in Lackawanna, New York. That was my mother's home church. My grandfather was a deacon there. And he helped build the new building. And a lot of my foundational training was in the Baptist church. So I say I'm Baptist born, Baptist bred. When I die, I'll be Baptist dead. But I've come to experience the Lutheran Church, the African American Episcopal, or was it African Methodist Episcopal? I don't know. I can't remember. AME Zion. How about that? The AME Church, which is foundational in, civil rights history as well. I've had Lutheran teachings. I spent a year in Catholic school. My sister spent 3 or 4 years in Catholic school, so I know some Catholicism. And one of the most beautiful experiences I had as a kid was actually going to a Jewish temple. I love the aspects of that. I believe it was a school field trip, actually. And that was Temple Beth Zion in Buffalo, New York. I got to see how the synagogue was set up. For me, it was amazing. So that awakened my curiosity. Then when I moved out west, my mother was already a member of a very large Baptist church. And I can tell you it was very fundamentalist. And at the same time, very, very, very racist. But the folks there would never say they were racist. And if I said it out loud, there'd be all kinds of arguments. But there was so much racism, and it was so deeply ingrained. The privilege was there. It was obvious. And that's when I fell away. I was baptized in that particular church. I had been sprinkled in one of the other churches, but I did full immersion baptism in that church, just trying to fit in. But by that time, my militant, radical sense of social justice had already been born and bloomed. And so, no, I couldn't for any length of time. I've heard straight out, flat out hatred preached from that church. I was a member of that church in the 80s, and I heard a pastor say about something about AIDS that stuck with me. AIDS was a punishment from God. And that was a prevailing thought, but it stuck with me. And what do I do when I moved back to a big city? Because that, for me, where my mom lived, was a hick town trying to be a city. And I mean hick in the true sense of the word, cowboys and people wearing cowboy gear. That's a shock to New York cultural experience. But that being said, when I moved to the city, I discovered a church that taught radical inclusivity, and basically was formed amidst the AIDS crisis to cater to the LGBTQ community who was being marginalized in numbers that, you can't even imagine. The 80s were horrible. Yeah, you heard it from me. The 80s were horrible, especially for certain people. So that being said, where I learned the liberation theology and the radical inclusivity was from a beautiful preacher, Bishop Yvette Flunder. Now there's some other folks, Reverend Dr. Tony Dunbar. You can look these names up. You can Google these names. Okay. Reverend Lanice Pinkert. And my friend who I ended up going to seminary with. Now, mind you, I need to say this. My friend was already ordained by the church when she went into seminary. But we went through the ministerial program together, and that's Reverend Roshan Tucker. And Reverend Tucker and I went to school at night and on the weekends for the ministerial studies program. And the reason we went to school together is because, I'm telling it, Ro, Sean had anxiety about driving on the freeway, so she would, but it took a lot out of her, so I drove from city to city in order to go to school. So Ro went on further. I did the ministerial studies program, and again, I wandered away. And I've been back, firm, fast, 10 toes down, standing on business in this kind of video ministry, in this format. I've been going strong for 4 years now. But prior to that, I had begun to come back home, if you will. So, the folks that I named are the people who influenced me. Amen.